Well, welcome to the Women's March Canada podcast, making the equality of women in Canada the new norm. Not a good one to forget, Melissa. Not talking to myself, I'm talking to our guest, Melissa. This is episode 58, titled Happy Go Money. I'm Melissa Durrell, and I'm your host. Women's March Canada inspires, unites, and leads the charge for the advancement of women across Canada. And please welcome our guest, as I was saying, Melissa Leong. Now, Melissa is a personal finance writer. She's an on-air personality, a speaker, best-selling author of the Feel Good Finance Guide, Happy Go Money. And she can be found on CTV's This Social and giving expert financial advice, which hopefully we'll learn a little bit about how you got into that and some today.
I'll do my best. Yes.
And you know what? You're a journalist, just like myself. So you interviewed thousands of subjects, and I love this: state, royalty, and celebrities such as Hugh Jackman and Carrie Fisher. One of the lines I always say is, I've interviewed prime ministers to prostitutes and everything in between. But I like this idea of
I could use that too. I could also use that. I might borrow that, Melissa, if that's okay.
Go for it. It's all yours. Okay, so welcome to the Women's March Canada podcast. This is
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
So
it's I often volunteer for organizations that support the advancement of women in leadership roles, and I support girls groups. And so this is a treat for me because it's in line with my values, and I think it's so important. So I'm glad we're talking today.
Awesome. Well, it's a treat for us too. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, because everyone always says you got to write a book, and I'm sure you probably heard that 100 times. And then what was the transition for you from going from being a journalist to then becoming an author? How did that happen?
Well, it took a while to write a book, actually. I've been a journalist for about 17 years, actually. My book out 2019 in January. So I did other things first. I mean, I love to tell stories. I was always a communicator. And so I started my career in journalism school. I worked at the Globe and Mail. I worked at the Toronto Star, and then I ended up at the National Post. And I've written about every subject. So I've written about terrorism, crime, arts and life, movies, travel. And I ended up at the Financial Post, where I was writing about personal finance. And I realized, I was working in the arts and life section, doing my dream job when they downsized the department, as newspapers are doing these days, downsizing. And so they actually moved me to the Financial Post. I went unwillingly, but I realized that personal finance is just telling people stories, but through money. And so everybody's life, everything that we do revolves around money, big milestones like weddings, like having children. And so I just realized that it was just an extension. And I've always wanted to help people. And so now I'm just helping people, trying to empower them through their wallets. And so the next step in that, finding ways to communicate with people, not just through writing, but through TV, through keynote speeches, through connecting with people, was to also write a book, to consolidate all of my knowledge into one place. And that was the journey. That's 17 years squished into one.
Well, thank you. I think I get where you're coming from. It's interesting because I guess part of the reason why you wrote the book was from your husband was dealing with some things on some stuff on the inside too. So how did that all come together?
Yes, I've been bouncing around ideas with my literary agent about finance books for years, and it just didn't click with me. It didn't have meaning for me. I wanted to help people, but there are a lot of personal finance books out there. And then in 2014, I married my best friend, and within a few months, he had a terrible reaction to sleeping pills and became a different person. He was lost in anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation, and he was hospitalized. And he's the funny one. He's the happy one between the two of us. He loves jokes. He can make me laugh till we cry. He loves practical jokes on people. And in that time, the only thing I could think of to do that was helpful was to be happy. And so I went on this journey of trying to find happiness, whatever that means. So I went to temples. I went to wellness retreats, and I read every book about positive psychology, about resilience. I listened to podcasts and lectures from monks, and I was trying to be happy for my husband. But what I realized in that time was I was also working at the Financial Post writing about money. Not a single book I read, not a piece of research talked about in this journey when I was trying to find happiness, talked about money, talked about finances. But I knew that we are all trying to buy happiness we're trying to use money to get happy. And so I basically took everything I learned about happiness and everything I know about money, and I put together this book that hopefully will make people reevaluate their relationship with money, as well as try to find more happiness in their lives through money management, through finances.
Right. And it's interesting. I was looking up the number one reason for divorce is infidelity. The number two is money. And so, you think about it, it's such a huge impact on not only our relationships, which is really where that seed was planted for you, but also to just, I love how you said, we're trying to buy happiness. And I think that really says so much about our society right now. And it's not about buying it, it's about managing our finances. Is that kind of the conclusion you've come to?
Both. It's basically how you spend and choose to use your money. I mean, at the end of the day, what is your money for? What is your money for if not for your happiness? Right? And I find sometimes the messages that we get out there, it is often that you can buy happiness. If you don't feel good about yourself, go to aisle 10 of the grocery store and buy this thing, or go to the mall and buy this hair dye and you will have it all. It's always that you can fix it through your wallet. And then there is other messaging that I don't think is very helpful to women, just around the idea of, there's a lot of, retail therapy, of shop till you drop, and all these, messages that are geared specifically towards women. And then all these messages that are sort of fed to us by society, which is, well, men do long-term planning, so your investments, and women do day-to-day budgeting. And so when I often go to events, I have women coming up to me to talk to me about, well, what are your tips for saving on groceries? But when men come up to me at events, they always ask me about stocks, Bitcoin, Forex trading, not necessarily sort of the nitty gritty. And then when they ask me, when men ask me, well, what's your best financial tip? They're looking for a stock tip. They're looking for something like that. This happened just last week, actually, at an event. And I say, it's very simple. It's about making choices. It's spend less than you earn. It's a very basic thing. And so there are a lot of things about personal finance that are not just about investing in the hottest stocks or figuring out the market. There are a lot of ways to be successful with money that I think women are really, really, really good at. It's a bigger picture.
Yeah, I want to explore that more, because it's interesting to me that, that's when people come up to you, for women, that it's almost like this micro, and for men it's a macro. And I don't know, how do we start? Is it education? Is it teaching women to think more long-term? I know this is
right. I don't know if it is education, to be honest, because, okay, let me preface that by saying that we all need more financial literacy. We all need more money education. You go to school, they let you out in university, and then there's all these people on the campus who are giving you credit cards, and you think, sure. And you dive into adulthood without some of the fundamentals of personal finance. And that has to do with the education system not giving us enough tools. Yeah. So yes, there is that. But when I talk specifically about women, it's not necessarily that we have to educate them more than men. It's not about that at all. It's about sometimes this is what the research says, at least, because I don't have any, I wish I had the magic answer, but a lot of the research shows that it is about confidence, actually. It's about empowerment. And so, I mean, that's basically everything that I've been trying to do with my career and my message, specifically with financial literacy, is to try to find ways to empower women to talk about issues that women care about, and not in a patronizing, oh, I gave it a pink background, you know, not in that way, because we're all smart, we're all ambitious, we all can successfully do this. It's just sometimes finding it within yourself to say, yes, absolutely, I can take the initiative. Because I think society often feeds you these, you know, you get into this partnership and then there's this, well, you take care of this part and you take care of this part.
Yeah. And I think too, the other thing that really, I really heard you say was men are kind of looking for that revenue base. So what can I invest in? So they're looking at increasing their revenue, whereas women are like, how do I save money on? So they're trying to shrink expenses. And those are two very different things, aren't they?
They are. They are both important pieces of the pie. So I guess if you are in a partnership, that does work. There's balance, right? You've got somebody doing long-term planning for the future and somebody working on the now, which is why it sort of works with my husband and I, because he's the spender. So he always says, well, no, I'm working on the fun for today. And I'm working on the fun for the future when we're retired. And so we have that balance. But the danger there is that women live longer, we make less money, and also women who take time off to be with children. The fact of the matter is, according to Stats you do take a hit in comparison to women who have not taken time off to be with kids. Your salary is your earning potential is really affected. And so you have more factors and more arguments to save more money for yourself and to learn more about your own money. I do have friends who just sort of, well, my husband takes care of that part or my partner takes care of that part. But you never, like in my case with my husband, he got sick a couple months after we got married, and we didn't see that coming. So It's just, you do need to know a little bit. You do need to know where your money is and what it's invested in. And 2019, it's a good time to ask some questions.
Yeah, good. And get the book, I guess.
Yes, that will help too.
Are you speaking across Canada then? Or I'm just wondering, how can people find you?
Yes, I am. Well, this is the challenging part about life. You don't always plan it the way that no, it doesn't always go to plan is the point, is that I can't go across Canada because I am going to be having a baby in February.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited. So my book baby launches in January and the real baby comes in February. And so I am taking some time off. So I've been doing a little bit of touring ahead of the book launch across Canada. Just in November. So I actually went already. I'm trying to stay a little bit closer to home because my toddler came early. And so I am trying to be a little bit more prudent this time around.
So tell me then, this is your second child?
Yes.
And, women across Canada often, and I think, I speak the truth here to say that when you go on maternity leave or you take that time off, you're often left out of the workforce and then need to.
Yes.
So as someone who really knows the business, the financial business and the industry, or the economy, I guess I should say, what are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that when you do come back, you're back full force?
So I'm in a different situation than somebody who is, say, someone who has a salary or at a set job. When you walk away, the fact of the matter is, and I've written about this in the Financial Post, you're not there. You're not doing the FaceTime. You're not taking on the projects that other people are taking on. Mm-hmm. And that can be tough to come back to, right? To sort of insert yourself back in. And you don't want to be checking your emails when you're trying to enjoy that time with your newborn. Mm-hmm. So I have spoken to women that it was tough. I have lawyer friends who that was extremely tough for them. They did see a hit to their career. So I don't necessarily have any specific advice about how to keep your career on fire only because I believe in balance, and I believe in that you can have it all, but maybe not at the same time, not all at the same time. And this is a larger question for society at large, not just for you. Like, I hate to put that on women. I hate to put that on you to say, you know what, it's up to you to really keep your career going when you're supposed to be off taking care of your kid.
Right.
Because that's, you know what, that's not fair. There are other people who need to help in that equation, including your partner, including the government, including the workforce. And so if it's having a conversation with your boss ahead of leaving, I know that might be awkward, but say, just talk what your intentions are, talk about what you're worried about, talk about what success looks like to you in 2 years versus in a year because you'll be off. Just say, these are things that I want to do for my career, and I just want to make sure that you are aware of the things that I am working towards, you know. And if that's not a good fit, if your boss is not he's not supportive, then that's also, you know, I've spoken to women who have looked for other options, who have looked for workforces that are more supportive, who have more appreciation for that work-life balance, right? We're not expecting you to take tons of work trips, and that might be sort of something that you think about over your maternity leave. If you're someone like me, I'm self-employed, there's a lot more flexibility for you to try to keep your name out there. And so, you know, there's always been work for women who stay at home, right? There's always been, you know, Avon and different kinds of opportunities. But now more than ever with with e-commerce, with commerce that's on demand now, with Uber, with this and things like Etsy, you can make a run of it on your own with your side hustle, right? And so there are ways to keep working when you are at home with baby.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a side hustle because you talk a lot about, you know, how paying down your debt can make you happier, right? Like it's part of it, right? And so this idea of having a side hustle and balance, I don't know, they sort of feel like they contradict each other, but do they? I guess is my question to you.
It depends. It depends on how you frame it. I think that when we look at happiness, when we look at studies having to do with happiness, relationships are important. Finding meaningful work is important. So doing something in the day that fulfills you and fulfills your values, knowing what your values are first so that you know that you are devoting your resources to the right place is really key. And so if you have a side hustle that actually, I don't know, if it feeds your passion, if it's something that you feel good about, if it's something that you're doing, then that can be healthy. If you're doing a side hustle because you are trying to pay off a debt and you hate it, and it's just, you know, the truth of the matter is that more and more people are taking on side hustles. People are working more. And my worry about that in terms of happiness is that we don't want to burn out, and we also don't want to affect our primary source of income if we are not doing a good job all around. You know, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of anyone else. And so then I would say, okay, well then allocate that side hustle for a specific goal for a specific time. I'm going to do this side hustle that I don't like because it gives me great benefits. Or I'm going to do this side hustle for this period of time. I'm going to drive Uber. I'm going to deliver, you know, Foodora, food, whatever it is, until I pay off this amount of debt. And then by then that'll be free and clear. Then your motivation is something positive. Then the idea is something that you are working towards, not this is my life and it sucks, you know?
Well, and like the biggest debt most of us have is our mortgage, right? And so that's a tough one to pay down.
Yes, everybody has mortgage debt. And I'm not one of those people who think that you have to aggressively attack and put all of your money into your mortgage. Our interest rates are going up. And so that is a good strategy to try to pay things down when interest rates are low. And so if you can, you know, top up your payments or make your payments at least bi-weekly, that's good practice. But I don't know about sticking every last penny you have necessarily into your mortgage. I do believe in balance. I do believe in putting other money to other things. However, when we talk about debt, it's high interest credit card debt.
So that's the biggie, right?
That's what I think people need to be aggressive about. It is such a burden that, and anybody who knows who has a lot of debt, you know, out of it was like 56 of life's most stressful events, getting out of debt beyond means of repayment ranked number 5.
Wow.
So that's more stressful than your spouse cheating on you, than fighting with your boss, than a period of homelessness. Getting into debt is really stressful. So if you want to be happier in life, then you should try to do what you can to tackle that, debt. And the other thing too is my husband and I, we skipped our honeymoon because we did not want to go into debt. And look what happened. If we had large amounts of debt, and then my husband he's self-employed too, and he got into a situation where he could not work. I mean, more money in that case would not have made him better, but more money would have made that whole nightmare so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to hear he's healthy.
Sorry, more debt. I mean, more debt. Like debt would have made that problem, that time worse.
Absolutely. And I did. I mean, we started out with the story of him. So I do want to just wrap that little bow up and say he's happy and healthy now.
Yes, he took his time to recover. We could focus on what was important, which was healing. And not worry about losing our home, because we purposely structured our finances in a way that would protect our happiness. We had disability insurance in case he couldn't work. We had emergency funds in case he needed a treatment center. Those are expensive. They start at $10,000. We also bought a sliver of a townhouse in the boonies. I did not want to move out of the city, but we bought the house that we could afford on one income because we thought maybe it would give us choices down the road for baby. We thought that one of us would stay at home and we wanted to be able to carry the house solo. But it actually, it was a blessing because that was the house that carried us through that horrible storm.
Yeah. Wow. Now, Melissa, we're talking, and it's right around Christmas time, and this is where a lot of people get into, what do we say? We exercise our credit card skills, right?
Sorry, that's funny.
I hardly ever use my credit card, but at Christmas, I'm a Christmas Eve shopper, and I just tap to every single store I go into, and I'll deal with it later. Now, I imagine
Melissa, first of all, why are you shopping on Christmas Eve? That is just a recipe for madness. It's just not a good idea. Desperation does not fuel good choices ever.
It's all me and all the men in the stores. This is the best. And there's so many staff there. You just get what you need done. It's the best. I'm telling you, anybody who tries it, I highly recommend it. But
no, I have been to a mall on Christmas Eve running through it. And it was like a zombie invasion. Everybody was just picking things up. And I thought, this is just a horrible place to be right now.
I embrace it. But anyway, so I'm going to open up this credit card bill likely sometime in January. And I imagine a lot of people in Canada are going to do the same thing. So what are your best tips for us to really start 2019 off on a good step? Especially, obviously almost all of our viewers are women. So what are some of the things that we can do to make sure 2019 is fiscally responsible?
Okay. So because my book is about happiness, I'm going to my answer is going to focus on approaching 2019 from a place of empowerment, positive feelings about your money. Because I think we go into January and we talk about, oh my gosh, look at how much we spend. Look at our credit card bill. I have a holiday hangover, and you feel crappy about yourself. And often when you feel bad about yourself, the natural thing is to look the other way, is to run away from the thing that makes us feel bad, right? And so I just would ask that people don't beat themselves up. A lot of people get into trouble in December, and January is just a perfect time to recalibrate and just set intentions for the following year. Whatever goals they may be, there are lots of ways to make your goals a little bit more attainable. Beating yourself up is not one of them. Yeah. And so I'm a big proponent of peer groups. There are a lot of studies that show that when you try to achieve a goal, if you write it down and if you are working with a bunch of other individuals who support you, you are way more successful. And so start something. 2019, start a money group. So my book has a sort of a questions for your money group. We call it Oh Happy Money tribe, your own tribe. And it's just a group of people who will support you with your money goals. You don't have to tell them how much you make, but at least, have a girlfriend or have a work wife that you regularly check in with. And at the end of the month, these are your goals. Did you meet your goals? Talk about them. Have a specific amount to set towards those goals. So just say, I'm going to get fiscally smart this year. That is too broad. And
Right.
if you are not fiscally smart in 6 months, you will feel bad about yourself. And so we want really attainable, small bite-sized goals, specifically things like, you know what, I'm going to pay off this credit card in 4 months. That means I have to pay this exact amount every month.
Yeah.
So that means $100 every 2 weeks. That means I'm going to get that from not going to lunch these days. Have a specific plan.
Yeah.
And those hopefully will help you get to some of your goals a little quicker than just despairing.
Yeah, I love it. And that is definitely something doable. And I think so many of us too, it's like, oh, I want to pay off my mortgage, right? Well, I'm not going to do that in 2019, right? But picking
something smaller, you need bite-sized goals. You know, I think when we look at things that are too unattainable, you know, that's what is really discouraging. Also, make 2019 the year where you stop talking about money as if it's a bad thing. You know, pay attention to the way that we talk about money. You know, are you always broke? I'm so broke. I have a friend who says, I can't go out for dinner with you. I'm broke. And I think, no, you are putting your son through Montessori school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, so don't say you're broke. Say, I can't go for dinner with you. I'm choosing to spend my money on education for my son, which that's great.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just pay attention to how you frame your money in the following year, because the negativity is it's not helpful.
I love it. Focus on happiness and be happy about the money that you got.
Be grateful for the money that you have, and for the money that you don't have, then it's just about sort of just tweaking some of your choices and spending some time to plan. You have to make a plan.
Well, Melissa, it's a pleasure. And people can pre-order your book. And
yes, it is available on, the digital copy is available now.
Okay.
And the hard copy is available on January 8th, and you can pre-order it.
Amazing. So I'm totally going to do that. And I recommend for our viewers to do the same thing, because, you know, we need to empower ourselves. And I think you make a really good point. Women need to really be confident and understand what they're making and how they're spending it. So excellent advice. Thank you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. It's such a good thing. But the point of it is just, I write the way that I talk. And so I wanted it just to be a conversation with me and many, many, many of my friends who I just think that we need to just open up a larger conversation about how you use your money. And it's not about guilt. I'm not browbeating anyone. I'm not going to throw any, scary things that are over your head. It's just, let's do this together. It'll be great. Yeah. And I love the idea of having a group. I think that's a great idea. And Alm is so cute. I was so happy, but love it. Okay. So Melissa, tell everybody your social channels so that we can follow you. Yes. You've got a big February, so we'll get to see it on Instagram. Yes. I am most active on Instagram. It's at Liss Leong. So it's at LISLEONG. I am on Twitter. I am on Facebook, though. Not as actively. I still share great things there, but most actively on Instagram. So find me there. I love to connect with people. I love it. I was on Facebook today at a coffee shop and someone said, "Oh, you must be in your 40s." And I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, I know. It's not. Anyway, thank you to our guest, Melissa Leong, and good luck in 2019. Lots of exciting things happening. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen. Your comments are welcomed and encouraged. Please subscribe to our Women's March Canada channel and receive updates every time we upload a new podcast, usually on Fridays. Our mission across Canada is to stand together in solidarity with our partners and our children in the protection of our rights, our safety, our health, and our families, recognizing that our vibrant and diverse communities are the strength of our country. This is the Women's March Canada podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Women's March CDA and on our website, womensmarchcanada.com. I'm Melissa Durrell, and I'm wishing you a fantastic day.